We are back talking positional scarcity, and this time we're talking big men. Welcome to the Fantasy NBA Today podcast, a sports ethos presentation hosted by yours truly, Aaron Bruski, FSWA Hall of Famer Steve, Dr. A. Alexander, and the inventor of fantasy basketball, Rick Kamla. Today we're wrapping up our review of positional scarcity. We're getting you guys ready for your draft week, and it's going to be the center position, the big men, going last. And before we get into all of it, if you have questions for the show, reply to the tweet promoting this episode at Ethos Fantasy NBA. Hit us with your questions, rate, review, subscribe, thumbs up. All that stuff helps us out. We thank you guys greatly for that. We got a lot to talk about, so let's get the sponsor read out of the way. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all things sports betting. Every stat, matchup, breakdown, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. With the largest catalog of odds on everything from football, MLB playoffs, NHL, NBA, and political props. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in a game of blackjack or poker, unwind with one of our over 150 slots. Head to the website today, get on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering, BetOnline. The game starts here. I shall be modifying some of that. Okay, how are we doing, guys? We went big on positional scarcity with the power forward positions yesterday. I take it you guys are all doing well. Haven't seen you guys in about a day. How you doing? You guys all look the same. Rick, you got a red shirt on just like yesterday?
Yeah, it goes with my tan. I'm trying to figure out political props. I just heard that in the promo right there. I hear we have an election coming up here in the United States of America.
I'm going big on Prop 37, dude. Prop 37, man. I'm just betting the house, dude. I got sources.
Is there an anytime touchdown prop with the political prop?
Honestly, it's not a political show, but I just remember the one time there was that odds one way and then the odds went the other way. And everybody was like, "What the hell happened?"
And then he or she was president. Oh man, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I want like reality TV props. Give me like The Bachelor, 7-day vacation, or what is it? 7-day marriage? I don't know. I bet my wife would win that one. 90-day marriage. What is that?
90-day fiance. My wife watches that stuff. Bruce, so do you watch that stuff, or are you just in the same room that the TV is on actually, with that on?
I actually find it very interesting, and it's not for very good reasons. It's more for like, what the hell is happening to society? Like, what are we all doing here? What is this? And then some of it is actually pretty intriguing, but I watch it just sort of kind of, it's like the pulse of the world, I suppose. I just want to know what everybody's doing with it. I don't know. Doc, where are you at with that? You watch this stuff?
Well, I haven't watched Saturday Night Live in a very long time, but I watched it on Saturday, and the political stuff at the beginning was pretty funny. And I liked it because it was sort of like down the middle, like they were making fun of everybody. And I thought it was all pretty well done, pretty funny. 90-day fiance and what's the bride one where they get married? Oh, married at first sight.
Married at first sight. Yeah, married at first sight.
Yeah, my wife and my buddy Keelan, who both of you guys have played fantasy basketball with. Like Keelan's all about that show. So
what up, Keelan?
So my wife and Keelan will have phone calls about Married at First Sight, and they'll break it down, and Keelan has his favorites and whatnot. So I just catch it like osmosis. I'm just there looking at my phone.
It's just osmosis
and dreaming about being somewhere else.
I can relate.
I know we're breaking a major rule here of YouTube, and we're not in the player analysis within 2 minutes. So I want to honor those who have that feeling on YouTube. We want to make sure that they get their analysis within the first 2 minutes. And I want to make sure we get it in there within the 4th minute. We're really working hard for you guys. Center scarcity. I mean, we're just going to break down Victor Wembanyama for 60 minutes, folks. It's going to be that. So just buckle up. It's going to be all Victor all the time. But that, maybe I'm being facetious, but maybe that does set the tone for some discussion here, in the sense that, like, if you don't get Victor, can you compete in blocks? Does this tilt the playing field? Are you going for, in a roto league, the second rank, because you can get it now because nobody's going for blocks in a head-to-head league? How does this tilt things? I don't know. I forget who was on the show that was having some interesting discussion. It was Noah Rubin talking about blocks. But the tiers are in. It's breaking news. Victor and Jokic at tier 1 and 2. Victor going 1.7 by ADP, 2.3 for Nikola Jokic. You got a second tier that's super interesting. I mean, this might be the most interesting position that we've gone through here. Anthony Davis and Joel Embiid, right around 8 in the risk of all risks sweepstakes. And then you go to super safe Domantas Sabonis. He of his own Netflix special with the great PR right now. Shout out Domantas Sabonis. And then Cat, just revitalized and pumped back up into the upper echelons of fantasy leagues, forming a third tier. He's going at about 24. I bet that ADP data is a little bit laggy in the sense that it's including stuff from prior drafts, and because his stock is certainly on the rise. And you get into tier 4 and you get Alperen Şengün, everybody's favorite Alperen Şengün, Bam Adebayo, who's been hanging around the early rounds forever. He's going at about 32. And you even get some real interesting names in tier 5 with Miles Turner, Rudy Gobert, Jarrett Allen, Jalen Duren, Old Vucevic still hanging on. And then you get down into these later tiers and you start to get into these names that are interesting. I'm not going to go through them all right here, but there's definitely a lot to like later in drafts. So let's get right to it. Okay, quick check-in. We talked about this all summer. I don't know that we need to go 10 rounds on this or anything. Are you team Victor? Are you team Jokic? I'll start with you, Rick.
Oh, it's Team Victor. He has risen to the number 1 overall pick in fantasy basketball. We could get a 4-block season, a 2 steal per game season, a 2 or 3 per game season. He could go, what is that, guys? 4 blocks, 2 steals, that's 6 plus 3 is 9. I mean, my God, he would be, what if he's a 9 in the fantasy gold? An average of 3 per at block, steals, and 3? Stop it. He's going to be around 25, 12, and 5 with his PRA. The percentages are going to get better than last year just because he's a young ascending dude. And so the difference between he and Jokic with the threes and with the defense clearly puts Victor ahead of Jokic for me. And there's some variability here. Like what is the full pop going to look like for Victor? Is it going to be a disappointing pop? Oh man, I thought he was going to pop higher than that. Or, do we get more of a significant pop? But either way, I got to go for the fantasy gold over Jokic. I got to go for the blocks, steals, and threes.
I gave you the floor, Steve, to gush. You get like 20 seconds.
My son, Soren, had the number 1 pick in our draft on Monday night. And when he found out he had that pick, he sent the league a text message that said, I'd like to be the first to welcome Victor Wembanyama to my team. And then he drafted him later that night. Like, this is a no-brainer. This is a celebration. There's some years you don't want the number 1 pick. Like in the real NBA this year, when the Hawks took Risache, this is not that. If you get the number 1 pick in a regular head-to-head draft and you get a shot at Wemby, and Rick just talked about all that fantasy gold coming your way, it's fun, it's exciting, and it'll get your adrenaline pumping.
Yeah. Full agreement. And it's crazy to think that an historic player, Nikola Jokic, with historic stats. I mean, when you do one of these lifetime fantasy leagues or all-time fantasy leagues, some of the seasons that Jokic is putting together are some of the best we've ever seen. And Victor is competing and beating that.
Yeah, and on the flip side of all the Wemby hype, if the guy in your league takes Wemby at number 1 and you get Jokic at 2, 3, or 4, you're just as excited as the guy that got Wemby at number 1.
Yeah, it's absolutely it's astonishing, and the drop off in the first, even really from 2 down to 3 and 4. And I know that opinions can vary here, but like these 2 guys are just outstanding, lights out, historic values in fantasy leagues, and it's just gonna be fascinating to see how this discussion pans out as Victor goes through years 3, 4, and 5 of his NBA career, and how fantasy leagues are going to handle that if he really does become that untouchable number 1 pick that just guarantees a championship.
Machine.
Yeah, he's going to break the machine probably. So that'll be fun. Tier 2 is just staring at me and just tempting me to hit draft. Anthony Davis, both Anthony Davis and Joel Embiid going at 8, more or less. And of course, this news about Embiid with the, not going to play back-to-backs, like, I think we already knew that. I think Embiid not playing in the preseason, I don't think it's making us comfortable, right? I think if you were out on Joel Embiid already, this news just sort of made things worse, right? I think this news is going to make Joel Embiid fall in drafts. I think almost anything that's bad about Joel Embiid is going to ignite. It's like dropping a match into a vat of gasoline. It's just going to light up, and he's going to fall. But I don't know that this is any different than what was going to happen anyway. I crunched the numbers on Joel Embiid, and basically, like, if the dude plays 40 games, he's still pretty good. He's still getting you like 4th round, 5th round value at like 40 games. So, I mean, it's a risky play, but maybe not as much as everybody thinks. In a head-to-head league, the risk is enormous. It's like massive because he might not be there when it matters for you. But how late would you guys, because I think you're both anti-Embiid, and I'm pretty anti-Embiid. Like, don't get me wrong. If I get the 5th pick, I'm just going to just throw things. It's going to be a bad scene here because I'm not going to want to play. Having to take the 5th pick, you're either looking at upside in Joel Embiid or everything else that's out there. And it's just not as exciting as the top 4 picks. But where do you got to be to draft Joel Embiid? Is it not at all? You're just never going to do it? What if he falls into the 2nd round? Will you guys do it then?
So he's not going to fall into the 2nd round. The news doesn't change much. For those of us who are already out, it just solidifies our decision. For those who are like, I kind of want to roll the dice on Embiid, and maybe if he sits out the preseason, he sits out practices, he doesn't play back-to-backs, maybe that means he stays healthy all year. So it sort of solidifies their decision to roll the dice on him. Maybe he will fall in the 2nd round in some leagues. I doubt it. But to me, it's easily Anthony Davis for me.
Between these two. What about you, Rick? Is there any circumstance that you would take Joel Embiid like at all? You're just out all the way?
Yeah, I mean, like maybe 2nd round, I would say, wow, Embiid is still there. Okay. But maybe not. Maybe I've taken a big in the 1st round, and I got my boy Donovan Mitchell there in round 2 with his 25, 5, and 5 and his 3.5 threes and his 1.5 steals. And I may rock that way. This is not a year to have Joel Embiid. It is not, because you have the surgery. You have what we saw with Team USA. Okay. He stunk. All right. He looked like a rickety old man for Team USA. I mean, I was like, why is he even on the team? Why is he starting over Anthony Davis? Like, all this stuff, it was just madness. Like, did Steve Kerr make a promise? Did Grant Hill make a promise to Joel Embiid to not play for the Cameroon and not play for France, that we're going to start you, okay, period? Sure seemed like that, because what he was bringing to the wood was not commensurate with the spot in the lineup there over Anthony Davis, who was arguably the best player on Team USA. Now, all of these months later, we're still in here talking about his knee, the injury, maintenance. Every report I get on Joel Embiid is worse than the one before. Okay. He said something about, if I had to guess, I'd say I probably never play back-to-backs again in his career. What? No, I mean, are we going down Kawhi Leonard Boulevard here? So alarms are sounding in my head about Joel Embiid. Alarms are going off. And I'm into Anthony Davis, man. I think at number 5, it's not an advantageous place to be. It's the worst play. If you're at 5, try to trade back a couple of spots, get an extra 3rd or 4th pick. I don't know what that looks like for you. But if you're at the 5 hole, you're in the worst spot, okay? If you stay there, I'm taking Giannis, because his stats are amazing and he's very safe, and I think he's going to be highly motivated. But if you want to take Anthony Davis at 5 and go for that 2.5 block per game, I'm not mad at you, man. I think Anthony Davis is going to be a really good player. So there is no decision in my mind between Davis and Embiid. It's AD every time.
I'm going to throw in one little bonus question for both of you guys. Throw a dart and tell me how many games Anthony Davis plays this season. We'll start with you, Doc.
70.
69.
69. All right. 69.
And no pun intended. Like,
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
I just feel like,
excellent adventure.
Exactly. 69. No, I have about 13 DNPs is what I see.
Look, if he does that, he's going to hit his ADP and he's going to be another force in fantasy leagues. That's all he needs to do is play those numbers of games. There's this effort factor that I've sort of identified with players that in the ends of their careers, when they're still kind of at the back end of their prime, but they, are kind of done keeping their bodies preserved for future contracts, that they just kind of get out there, especially in the case of Anthony Davis. I think his want and desire to kind of be viewed as a championship player and be the man. I think he's taken a lot of hits through the years. I think he's motivated. Now, can he get through the body stuff? I don't know. I think only he knows at the end of the day, because so many absences, so many trips to the locker room, so much this, so much that. It really kind of almost seems fishy in many ways that there's been so many games missed through the years. And then all of a sudden he's going to be a durable player right now. That's basically what we're betting on. If you're taking him early, we're betting on him being a durable player. He's going to hit that games played mark. But I think a lot of people are feeling that. So momentum is big for Anthony Davis right now, as evidenced by his ADP. Now, this next tier is super interesting because Cat just joined it essentially after the Julius Randle trade. You got Sabonis at 17, Cat at 24. And I think Cat's probably going to end up kind of closing the gap between Sabonis here and getting into that range. So I think a lot of folks are going to be presented with either Sabonis or Cat decision, especially next, say, Friday, when drafts are really hot and heavy. Cat just played a big game against Minnesota. I thought that was super interesting. I thought that the tensions on the court were super interesting. I thought all the stuff you see, this New York Knicks team that's now very Cat oriented, not as much Dante DiVincenzo oriented. And I think you guys can read between the lines on how I feel about that. But in fantasy leagues, Cat used to be a top 5 play. Domantas Sabonis will never be a top 5 play. So when the clock's on, let's say you're at 18 or something, or 19 or 20, and you're looking at Sabonis versus Cat. Doc, I'll start with you. Does Cat have enough juice for you to try to get some of that upside and take him over Sabonis?
I think so. The Sabonis's lack of steals and blocks does not win him any awards with me. Just is what it is. And this Cat new life in New York thing, I'm kind of really excited about it. So I'm hoping Cat doesn't have some weird injury or family matter that shuts him down, for a long term, because that seems to be something that happens every couple of years with him. But I'm going Cat, and I'm excited about it.
Nice. What about you, Rick? Where are you going here?
I'm with him. If Cat is on Minnesota, I want Domantas Sabonis. Now that Cat is in New York, and now that two guys went from the core of the Knicks to Minnesota with Dante and Randall, he's fully green lit here. I think he's the second option on this team behind Jalen Brunson. Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby will be 3 and 4. And then, Josh Hart is just a glue guy and a dirty work guy. But Karl Anthony Towns has been rebounding the heck out of the ball here in the preseason. And now he's going to be in the hole. So I think we're going to get back to a 2010 version of Karl Anthony Towns. He'll give you 3 or 4 assists just by playing. Could get over, guys, 1.2 blocks. Is that crazy? 1.2 blocks. I 1.5 would be great. Okay. And I'd kind of like to see that, but could we get to 1.2? Could we get to like a Zubats level, right? Where you're like Zubatsing out there with the blocks. Okay. Could we get like a little Zubats 1.2? And then with the 3 balls, guys, I think we're at least 2.5 from Karl Anthony Towns, who says he's the best shooting big man of all time. And he's totally wrong about that. It's Dirk Nowitzki. Stop it. Like, you're a work in progress. You're looking up at the 6th leading scorer of all time and saying you're the best shooting big man of all time, and he's got a ring and an MVP, and you don't have anything close to that? It's a joke. Anyway, soapbox aside, I'm taking Cat over Sabonis all day.
There's a lot there. We could go on a cat spin real quick, and I don't want to do that. But I think to me, this comes down to formats, because if Sabonis is in a 9-cat league, you got to deal with those turnovers. I know we don't really think about turnovers so much in 9-cat. A lot of people just don't even think about them at all. But, just values aside, I think that the turnovers for Sabonis really take his lack of upside and they just make it even more pronounced. And I would like to see Cat at that point. And if you flip it, it's in an 8-cat league in a roto situation. I think I would still take Sabonis, but I think fantasy sort of mimics reality here. It's like you're going to build your team with a center and you don't get the blocks and you don't get the defense. And Sabonis, put you in that hole. So you're going to have to find those blocks later or just get rid of them and pump them all together. And I just don't like doing that early in a draft. But that said, in an 8-cat roto situation, I would definitely take Sabonis over Cat. A lot of folks are 9-cat head-to-head guys. And then the beautiful thing about that is there is this what-if factor with Cat that we can't really project because the blocks are the key thing. You're talking those numbers are really super low. But what if a defensive mentality takes over and Tibbs sort of gets through to him and they say, hey, Cat, we need you out there. Don't worry about the rebounds. We'll take care of the rebounds some other way. Go get those blocks. We need to get that classic rim protection. And that's always been a Tibbs thing, is having a classic rim protector. He's had a pipeline with Cat in the past, having coached him previously. So maybe he could just get through, hey, let's get some blocks. Let's get some blocks. And then you're looking at some real good upside, possibly first round. And again, this is a guy that was a top 5 pick previously. Sometimes I think he was even going number 1 in the past. So, that upside is most certainly there. All right. Enough about Cat, enough about Sabonis. It's on to Ice Pick in Your Eye trivia. No break. We're just going right for it. Doc, you get to go first, celebrating your win in the last episode. Great job. I'll go second. Rick's going to get to go third. Question's super simple. Who has the most free throws made in a season? Who has the most free throws made in a season? In the Department of Redundancy department. Who has the most free throws made?
James Harden.
Doc goes right for the jugular, right off the bat. That's a big fat no. It's a big fat no. Who has the most free throws made in a season? Who's getting fouled a lot? Who is getting fouled a lot? Got James Harden shows up twice on this list. 7 at 754, 9 for 746, 7 and 9 for James Harden. Ushering in a terrible brand of basketball with all those fouls drawn. I'll go with the great one, Michael Jordan. That is not correct. What did he had at least like 3? Yeah, 3 for Michael Jordan. 833. All right, Rick, your time to take a crack at it. What you got?
All right. Most free throws in a season. Because I was going to say Harden and I was going to say Jordan. Okay, so I'm glad you guys took those hits right out of the gate here. I'm going to go. Oh, this is so tough. I'm going to say Kobe Bryant.
The made part of this question really messes with it. I don't know if we're getting a tip here or not. Kobe's outside of the top 10. No tip. This one should be easy enough. No tips. Doc, you're up.
The greatest big man shooter of all time, Dirk Nowitzki.
Cat would disagree.
Woo.
That's not going to work. I wonder, sometimes it's a game within the game. Sometimes I think our intrepid producer, Andre Lemouche. I know. I think he's trying to mess with us here. I think he's going to go for the double answer. I'm going to go with the foot kicking, the Reggie Miller light version in Karl Malone. No.
Ooh.
It felt like he shot a lot of free throws that like in like 96, 97.
Ooh, that was my next guess, Brew.
Was it? Okay, good.
Yeah,
now you're going to be panicked and maybe you'll say something crazy outside of the 10.
Malone was my next guess. I'm gonna say Moses Malone.
Moses Malone, not it. Okay, it looks like we will get a tip here. Andre's determined that we're not good at this. That's what's going on here. The tip is in.
Is it though?
No. He played for a team of one of the players answered already.
Oh, I wasn't paying attention. I was putting together information in my head.
Well,
prepping for my next answer. Dang it.
I'm not going to help you, sir. I'm just not going to help you.
Can we get a recap?
Players were mentioned. Things were said. Answers were wrong.
Toronto, Canada has been blowing up my phone all day, by the way. And it's starting to really annoy me.
Is there a backstory with that?
Dwayne Wade. And I don't know if he said any Heat players or whatever. I'm sure that's wrong.
Dwayne Wade. All right. He's on the team of somebody that's played. Okay. All right. I got some ideas. I got ideas here. All right. Let's go with the one and only Dream Shake. Akeem Olajuwon, please.
Wow.
That would have been, I don't remember him as a huge foul guy, but Rick, you get a crack.
I thought you were that was my next guess. Brew was Hakeem. I'm gonna say Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah, that was like right on the top of my mind early on, and I kind of said, like, with that sky hook, nobody could touch it, so they just didn't bother. All right. Apparently, we get another tip here. Hopefully, it's better than the last one. It's not a big, says Andre. It's not a big. So you could take Ben Simmons off the list, Doc.
Has anyone said LeBron?
You just said it.
Okay.
So no,
LeBron.
So it's not a big. It's not a big. Somebody that's got to be explosive enough to draw all those fouls. And they've also got to be able to make them. Most free throws in a season. Most free throws made in a season. Like, that is not a big. Most free throws made in a season. Tick tock is right. The not a big thing is really throwing me off right now. Who was that? All right, I'm going to pass for the sake of live, whatever we're calling this. Rick, you're up because clearly I'm not going to get it. I'll just say something stupid.
How about Allen Iverson?
Ooh. Me likey.
Come on.
How about Charles Barkley?
You know, there was another tip coming, but well, at least we should hope there's another tip coming. I got to go back to the tip, though, that Andre gave earlier. Is somebody that's on the team of somebody that's been mentioned. I just sort of scroll back and look. I'm It's like, what Dallas player was drawing fouls left and right? What? I mean, Los Angeles Lakers player drawing fouls left and right. All right. Okay. I was thinking this. Oh, it's not a big. It's not a big. Okay. Can't go there. That's clearly, I think Wilt Chamberlain's my answer for everything. Yeah. I'll go Steve Nash.
I think that's it. That's it.
Oh, I thought maybe I caught lightning in a bottle there.
That was it.
I thought, I mean, because he makes enough of them, but.
Wait a second. All right. I got a name. Old school. He used to do this with the basketball before. Doc, do you know who I'm talking about? He used to massage the basketball. He'd spin it a little bit.
Yes. I can't.
Initials AD. The trivia
trivia within the trivia now.
Within the trivia. Adrian Dantley.
Number 4. At least we're in the top 10. Adrian Dantley, 813. Okay, we got a tip here. Let's get this, guys. Come on, somebody step up. Act like we've been here before. Last season, 73 to 74. Is that the last season that he played, or is that the season that it happened? That's the last season that he played. Okay, I have my answer.
It's me?
I got my answer.
I'm going to say Pistol Pete.
Hey, you point your pistols. My old basketball coach used to say. Okay. I don't know. The era, the time, I might just be completely off base here, but I'll go with Jerry West. Oh my God.
Oh, good one, dude.
My favorite one of all.
Stupid question.
Wow. Jerry West has the most free throws made in a season. I did not know that.
Did not know that either.
I did not know that.
It crossed my mind to say him like 3 guesses ago or 50 guesses ago, however many it was. But like, I was like, come on, Jerry West, like the shot clock thing is like, did they even have a shot clock when Jerry West played? I don't know.
They're all old school guys.
He did it in 1965, 66. What happened? Were people just fouling like crazy? Like, was that what was going on with the game of basketball? Just a foul every time down the floor?
I was going to say Rick Barry next.
Oh, that would have been a good one. Number 8, Rick Barry at 753.
Wow.
Wilt, the Wilt thing, when it was not a big man, that took it off the board for me. But then that man shot a lot of free throws. He was number 2 at 835. Oscar Robertson checked in at 5 with 800. KD hit number 6 with 756. And Barry, he shot him underhanded, right? Or was he the underhanded guy? I should know this as a Warriors fan.
Yeah, grandmama style. Yeah,
my kingdom to somebody who does that. Oscar Robertson at 10 with 742. Okay, all right. This is the first time. I'm going to take that win. I'm going to just store it away, and I'm going to refer back to it for many years.
It's a good win, dude. That's a good win right there.
I like that. And it's just cool that Jerry West is the all-time leader in free throw made in a season. That's just crazy to me. But okay. All right. Let's get back to fantasy. So the 4th tier, Alpi Şengün going at 28. Bam Adebayo going at 32. If I had to guess, the 2 of you guys will be Team Alpi on this one. Is there any question with that? No questions at all? Rick, would you dare take Bam Adebayo over Alperen Şengün?
I would consider it because Bam is light in the defensive stats. Alpi is light in the defensive stats, but I'm probably going to get more points from Alpi. Probably going to get slightly more rebounds from Bam. I'm definitely going to get more assists from Alpi. Alpi he'll be around 2.1, 2.2 stocks, right around where Bam is. You know, the 3 ball could be a pivot between these guys. I heard Bam say that he's going to get up 103 balls this year. Here's the thing with that, right? Let's say Bam takes 103 pointers. Let's do the math on this. He's going to probably make 33%, and I think I'm being generous with that. So that means he's sprinkling 33 three balls over probably 70 games, which means he's going to be at about a half a three per game. Ooh, like, are we getting like, hot and bothered about that? No. Alpi Şengün, I think also has some 3-point upside here. I do like the look on his shot. Will he extend to that range this year? This is a good one. I think they're both very close. I just feel like Bam versus Alpi. Alpi's in a contract year. Alpi's a younger player on the ascent. Bam is more like settled into who he is and what he does. He's not going to, go crazy with a block number or anything like that. I think that ship has sailed. He's got to share with Butler. He's got to share with Hero. He's got to share with Rozier, okay, when healthy. So I'm saying Alpi Şengün here.
Rick, you actually said it without saying it. It's upside. Like, we know what Bam can do. We know what Bam is going to do. If you want a nice little safe pick and Bam checks all the boxes, then that's who you go with. But if you want to swing for the fences and hope that Şengün takes it to another level this year, which he totally could, you take Şengün. I'm pretty much 90% Şengün right here.
Yeah, I think I'm 100% Şengün here for the reasons that both of you guys described. I'm curious. It's going to take a lot for him to hit this ADP, 30. That's a really big season. It's a lot of mouths to feed in Houston. I'm just, as we've said and talked about for a couple of years now, on my side, this team, the heart and soul of this team, you're going to dump it into Alpi and dump it into Alpi and dump it into Alpi. And then what on the defensive side is happening is he going to be the guy that's kind of the hole in the defense, and that dynamic that plays out over the course of a season, it can get sour real quick. The other aspect of this that's really super interesting is they do have so much young talent there that if, they wanted to go away from Şengün, they've got one hell of a trade asset that they can kind of, throw around the league and see if they want to turn the page if they figure that they can't get the defensive equation to work around him. And then, from a fantasy perspective, does he make free throws? And with so many players that need the ball there, is he going to be able to hit this number? I like him a lot lower than this, but I do think it's a clear-cut win for Şengün. Tier 5, we got Miles Turner. This is like I got to get a center tier, and I don't want to go bargain hunting. Miles Turner at 45, Rudy Gobert at 46, Jared Allen at 53, Jalen Duren at 54, and Nick Vucevic at 55. Let's do this. So why don't each of you tell me of those 5 names, like 2 that you like, and then if you don't like any of them, just say so. Rick, we'll go to you first. Out of the 5, you got Miles Turner, Rudy Gobert, Jared Allen, Jalen Duren, Nick Vucevic, all going around the same 45 to 55 range. Which 2 do you like and which ones do you don't?
Okay. You said which 2 do I like? So it's definitely Miles Turner and Rudy Gobert, and it would be in that order. Miles Turner, guys, is in a contract year. He's got 1 year left at about $19 million. So he's in a contract year. Actually, Rudy Gobert is in a contract year too. He is a little different. He's got an option year after this upcoming year. So 2 years on the books. Will he pick up the option? I think he will, because it's well into the 40s, and I don't think anybody's going to pay him that. But it still could be a contract year, and clearly he's going to want to, keep kicking butt for his own finances, his team, that whole thing. But Miles Turner is in a I got to kill it this year thing. Kind of like Porzingis was before he got paid, kind of like Brook Lopez was before he got paid. So I think we've got a better chance to get the spike year from Miles Turner, get maybe 3 blocks per game, get a couple of 3 balls per game. And he is one of the best combinations of those stats in league history. When you talk about shot blocking and 3-point shooting, he is literally one of the best to ever do it. I'm a big fan of Miles Turner, so I would start there. I do think Gobert is going to have a really good year. He'll get back to 12, 13, 15 rebounds with Cat being out. I think he's going to get back to blocking more shots with Cat not being there. It's just sort of like, dude, this is your show. Okay. It's your paint, roam, protect, do the Utah thing here all over again. So I'm high on Rudy Gobert this year. I think he's going to be terrific, but Miles Turner is going to bring that 3 and block combo that has me even higher on him.
What about guys you don't like, Rick? Are you staying away from any of the rest? Jared Allen, Jalen Duren, Nick Vucevic?
Great question. No, I'm not. I'm a Jared Allen guy. I think Jared Allen's underrated. He's at about 1.3 blocks, which you'd like it to be higher, but it just seems like he always puts up a good stat line, man. And if guys miss, if Garland misses, if Mitchell misses, if Mobley misses, now more lobs to him and more touches to him. And he's on a team with guys that miss games. So I'm not crazy about Jared Allen, but I mess with Jared Allen. Jalen Duren doesn't block shots. That's a problem for me. Okay. And I like him, a young ascending guy. I'm not saying no. I prefer other guys because he doesn't block shots. And then Vooch is a 2010 guy. Okay. But then, maybe a 3 per game, doesn't block, doesn't steal. I'm not crazy about Vucevic guys. I'm just not crazy about him.
What about you, Steve? Of these 5 players, which ones would you like to see on your team?
The only one I know for sure is Miles Turner. I'm trying to, guys, the voice is sometimes there, sometimes it's not. I've got some injured vocal cords, but I'm trying to play through this.
You sound great, bro.
Miles Turner is heads and tails above the rest of this group. Like he's a no-brainer for me. I like Jared Allen. I think if you want to go conservative, Jared Allen or Vooch. If you want to try to hit a home run and go with the kid, Jalen Duren, I think you're good there. And then without Cat in Minnesota, Rudy Gobert should be really good. So I'm genuinely pretty happy with 2 out of any of these 5 guys.
Yeah. I mean, it's an intriguing landing spot in the big man discussion, because if you don't get your bigs early, if you are waiting until the end, it can turn out real bad for you. This happens to me sometimes, and I hate it because I'll have, some late targets that, are super, shiny diamonds in the rough. And for whatever reason, like, coach doesn't want to play them or whatever the thing is that happens. And these guys, I mean, these Miles Turner, I do like for the reasons that you stated, Rick. But like Rudy Gobert is somebody that I've faded for kind of years. He's beat me on that probably more times than I've won that discussion. And he's probably got a big old bit of motivation now that he is the only big man left, so to speak, amongst he and Cat. And, of course, Naz Reid is there, but this team now needs Rudy Gobert to be super good for them to capitalize upon everything that they've built toward. Jared Allen, big season last season. Will he start to decline? He didn't last year, that's for sure. Duren, I loved Jalen Duren last year. The injury question marks are really getting to me. And then the fact that we don't know if he's going to block shots. And then with Vooch, a safe play, but Chicago, not sure what's safe there. So they're there. They're good. You're not going to lose your leagues probably by selecting these players. But they're not as sexy as I want them to be. All right, let's get to tier 6. We get a little bit down in the muck with this tier because I know both of your thoughts on DeAndre Ayton, or at least you, Rick. I think you're all the way out. Maybe Doc's got a soft spot for DeAndre Ayton in his heart. Nick Claxton at 63 as well. I mean, man, the hype would be a lot bigger for Claxton, I think, if not for the tanking situation in Brooklyn. I mean, they're trying to give him more opportunity. Seems like aside from some players in the depth side that people do like in fantasy leagues, it seems like Claxton's got a full green light and he's ready to go. But, is that enough for you guys to pull the trigger? I'll start with you, Rick.
Yeah, no, again, this is why, looking at this tier with Ayton, who's a flush, and Claxton, who's a flush, this is why you go ahead and secure these positions earlier in the draft. And so I believe that there's like more attractive guards at this point in the draft. And so this is why you go forward and center heavy early. And I'm not saying, again, to people listening, I'm not saying your first 5 picks need to be centers and forwards. I'm saying 3 of your first 5 picks need to be centers and forwards. Okay, mix in a couple of guards there, and then you're banging a guard here and an attractive guard that you're excited about. When others are, what am I going to get from DeAndre Ayton? I don't know. And when is he going to get shut down? I do know that the month is March. Okay, and the same thing with Nick Claxton. Brew and Doc, if you could tell me that Nick Claxton was going to play 75 games and go 13 points, 11 rebounds, and 2.5 blocks, he'd be way higher up this list. Okay, but I just don't. And I think that stat line, 2.5 blocks might be a little optimistic, a little ambitious. Okay, but he could go 13, 11, and 2. I think all day long, right? And that makes him very attractive. 2 blocks per game, dub guy, very high efficiency with all the dunking. But Brooklyn is awful, and their whole thing is Cooper Flag. So Claxton was shut down last year. He's going to be shut down this year. And so we've got to build that into our calculations here. You can't just nakedly draft these guys on these ass-rotten teams and hope for the best. You got to be smarter than that, okay? And to a large degree, you've got to exclude the guys, the Washingtons, the Brooklyns, the Portlands, the Utahs, okay? These teams ain't trying to win this year. And you say, Cam, what about Detroit? Detroit's a little plucky to me, guys. They're a little plucky, okay? The roster doesn't suck. It does not. Are they going to make the play-in tournament? No. But I could see improvements this year, and I think maybe they just start tanking later than some other teams. But I don't see Cade Cunningham getting shut down. I don't see Jaden Ivey getting shut down. I don't see Jalen Duren getting shut down. I just don't. I think that Detroit has not given us a model for that. And now we have Bickerstaff up there, and I think he's going to be trying to win. And Tom Gores hates to lose, man. He just hates to freaking lose. And it's led to some issues with you've got a win now mentality and a win tomorrow team. Hello, Monty Williams, one and done. But it also speaks to we don't tank around here. We play it out. We want our fans to have the best on the wood all the way to the end of the year. So Detroit is that one exception team, guys, where I am taking Pistons, not Tobias Harris for a variety of reasons, or Isaiah Stewart. I mean, it's basically Duren, Ivy, and Cunningham, okay? But I don't lump Detroit in with those other tanking teams, and I don't, because Cade's on my list, Ivy's on my list, and Duren is still on my list.
Look, they added all those veterans. The Vegas over-under, I believe, is 24.5. I believe if you go check my win totals article, which you can read for free at sportsethos.com, the parts, the big picks that I like the best, those are for the Wager Pass members, but you get all 30 teams except for the Grizzlies, who I will not bet on. But all the reasons that you stated, Rick, is why I've got them as an over. And what's really interesting about this year's Cooper Flag sweepstakes is you got a bunch of teams. We'll bring this back to Brooklyn here real quick, but like we got a bunch of teams that are really, you got 3, maybe 4 teams that really could go well below their number to try to get Cooper Flag. But then you're going to have this sort of second tier that's not playoff really eligible. They're not going to play for the play-in, but they're going to look at it and be like, hey, my odds are pretty good at 5 and 6. You know, we're not going to do the full tank. And Detroit, they can't really do the full tank. It's going to crush their franchise if they really go for a full tank. So I think that those guys are going to play a lot longer than folks hope. The key will be, can they play deep into your fantasy playoffs? And then with Brooklyn, I mean, their over-under is 19.5. And I think they'd have a real hard time hitting that number if they all stay healthy and they play well and they don't tank. And that, that leads us to believe that they could be flirting with some Detroit, that historic Detroit losing season. They could be that bad in an attempt to get Cooper Flag. And I mean, that takes Nick Claxton off the board for me. Doc, do you got any love in your heart for Claxton or Ayton? Can either of those guys land on a team for you?
Have any of the blurbs told us whether DeAndre Ayton has bought a set of snow tires yet?
You'll never let him.
Or a motor. Can he go buy a motor? You can go to a shop and buy a motor, can't you? They put motors in cars and in boats and in planes. Can he just go buy a motor?
Is he the Tin Man that needs a heart, or was the Lion needs a heart from the Wizard of Oz?
He needs a motor more than a heart.
Speaking of the guys, the opposite of guys without motors. Whoa, my voice just came back.
Nice.
Is Rick's Pops article out today? Is that correct?
Today. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. All right. That's big.
Excellent plug there, Monty.
I'm going to go.
That broadcast school is paying off.
I'm going to go. Yeah, you know what? DeAndre Ayton.
Are you going to turn around and say you're going to have Ayton on your team after all that?
Balled out at the end of last year when I did not think it was possible. Claxton.
Fool's gold.
Claxton, I'm one of them.
He's talking himself into it. Watch him. He's talking himself into it right now.
I'm trying to talk him out of it. Fool's gold.
Friends don't let friends.
Draft DeAndre Ayton.
Well,
give me the keys.
I don't want either. I'm going to have my centers before we get here. How about that?
Bingo. That's the answer.
We did it. That's we talked him out of it. Congratulations, everybody.
Honestly, I will skip both of these guys and literally take the guys in tier 7.
Well, let's get to tier 7. We got Isaiah Hartenstein at 74, 75. Both these guys are like 75. Brook Lopez, 75. I'll say this. I've seen Hartenstein going in like 60, 55. And we talked about him yesterday a little bit. Look, I would love like Hartenstein's been my dude forever, like 5 years now, and I love all of the progression in his game. I think he's got more levels to go. I'm as big of a Hartenstein fan as there is, and I'm trying to build cases, right? Like I saw them play, and I really think that he and Chet Holmgren can play together, and I think that the Oklahoma City Thunder might be a historic basketball team in the regular season. So I'm super excited, right? But this is still too high for Hartenstein. Like 55 is crazy. Like he's got the potential to get there, but like, I mean, what are we doing? Are we just drafting and we're going to get even money value on a guy that could theoretically, the bottom could fall out if he gets 24 minutes, all the stats go to another guy or, the rest of the team. Yeah. So I would be fine having Hartenstein on my team. I love him as a player. I don't know where I'm going with that, but what about you guys? You got a choice right here. You got Hartenstein and Lopez. Let's go to you, Doc. Who do you take?
I'm taking either of them before I'm taking DeAndre Ayton or Nick Claxton. Then if I'm between Hartenstein and Brook Lopez, I don't think I'm as down on Hartenstein as you guys are. I'm not that scared of him. It is scary. Oklahoma City's loaded. They have Holmgren. I get it. But they didn't sign Hartenstein to just be a bench guy and just sit on the bench and not help. So I'm not that scared of drafting Hartenstein. And Brolo is my guy, man. Blocks shots, bangs threes, plays every night. Don't really have to worry about him. I'll take either one of these guys happily in the 70s. Probably Hartenstein in the 50s, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but 75, I'll take it.
Rick, what about you? You got the choice. Hartenstein, Lopez, what do you think?
This is not a debate for me at all. This would be, I need one of these guys, comes to me in the draft and snap a finger and the next guy's on the clock. Okay. Like I wouldn't bleed the clock on this one. It's Brook Lopez all day. Isaiah Hartenstein isn't a great shot blocker. Brook Lopez is. Isaiah Hartenstein hits no threes. Brook Lopez hits like 2 a game. Lopez is very light in the rebounds. We know this. It's established. He's going to be like 12 points, 5 boards, 1.5 assists. So those numbers suck basically. Okay. But look at how deep we are in the draft. And I've been taking a lot of Brook Lopez here. He's falling. Nobody wants him. He's old. He's washed. All of these narratives that people have about him. He sucks, blah, blah, blah. I want something younger and sexier, like a Nick Claxton who's going to play 2/3 of the year. All of this whack thinking out there, okay? Brook Lopez just prints stats every year. Doc said it, plays every night. Oh, and get this. Brook Lopez is in a contract year, folks. Okay, he's 36, still good, and in a contract year. Do you think Brook Lopez wants to just fade into oblivion like Kyle Lowry has? Or do you think Brook Lopez wants to go out there and punch back and have a hell of a year and regain some value? Remember, 2 summers ago, Houston signed him to 2 years and $48 million, or thought they did. Milwaukee came in and put a little bit more logs on the fire and kept Brook in Milwaukee. And that was a pretty hot little Houston-Milwaukee fight for Brook. And so he's got to now put a lot of great ball out on the wood, be 2.5 blocks per game, be 2-3 balls per game, maybe get it up to 13.5 points, get it up to 6.5 rebounds, okay? In a contract year to prove everybody, no, I'm not dipping here. I'm like Braun around here. I'm going to keep this thing going strong all the way till I'm 40. So there's a lot of that motivation. The stat line works for me. He's on a highly motivated team that's trying to get out of wreckage from the last 2 years. So the arrows are pointing straight up here on Brook Lopez. And I would rather have Lopez than Claxton and Ayton and probably a bunch of other guys too.
It's crazy to think that Lopez is still being discussed in this realm. And I don't really project him to be much better than where he's at right now. Both of these guys are safe plays, by the way, which if you're looking for big men, if you didn't get one early, this is a great tier to look at and try to solidify your team without breaking the bank. But Brook Lopez has made a career lately over the last like 3 years of barely being drafted, it seems, and then going top 25. Like just a killer fantasy player. And his game's not really reliant on athleticism, though I would say last season when I was watching him run up and down the court and try to stay with guards, I was like, man, he's as good as anybody in the league at that size. Staying with people out on the perimeter and just surviving as a very big in today's game. And this Houston thing is just so succulent to me. It's like, I think they could put Brook Lopez on that team and just kind of like, almost like just be ready to go. And they tried to do it. And now with Milwaukee, if they actually can't win early this season, if it doesn't gel for whatever reason, I wonder if everybody starts looking at the exits and trying to figure out what's the exit plan here. What's the exit strategy? You just get this mass exodus from Milwaukee. It's crazy. It's a little bit tinfoil hat on the head, but how does that all factor into things? It's not factoring into anything for me as far as Brook Lopez is considered, because if he does get traded, something weird happens, I'm thinking he's just going to be fine wherever he goes. And I like Brook Lopez no matter what. A nice, safe pick here. So, all right, we got one more tier here. It's massive. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pepper you guys with names. And I want to hear who you like, who do you don't like, and just kind of have at it, because the back end of drafts for big men is super interesting. I mean, as I rattle these names off, they're going from like 80, in the top end to like 109. It's a good 2 rounds worth of big men that are available for you guys. And so if you want to wait, it's actually looking okay down there. Let's go. It's Yusuf Nurkic, Jonas Valanciunas, Jakob Poeltl, Ivica Zubac, everybody, Mark Williams, Naz Reid, Walker Kessler, Clint Capella, Kristaps Porzingis, who we all kind of know about, Daniel Gafford, John Collins, Derek Lively. So which are the names that you've got circled on your sheets? Which are the ones that you're staying away from? Doc, I'll go to you first.
I decided at the last minute that I was going all in on Naz Reid. And Naz Reid is my guy here. Cat is gone. Naz Reid was already extremely effective in the second half last year with Cat and what's his name? Rudy Gobert. They're together. I think Naz Reid is set to have a really fun, good year. So love Reid. I'm not touching Kristaps Porzingis for anything. And at the very end, you're still going to have Onyeka Okongwu and Trace Jackson Davis available very late. And I'd rather mess with one of those guys than, we saw Mark Williams go really early in that draft we did last week. And I'm still surprised by it. I just don't trust the guy. There's a lot of low-key love for Ivica Zubac out there. I'm fine with him. All these guys are boring. I want Naz Reid and Naz Reid only.
Rick, I don't know. Right. You think he likes Naz Reid?
Yeah, no, I dig it. The one and only Dr. A people. So there's a lot of names here. I circled 4. is Ivica Zubac, Naz Reid, Walker Kessler, and Clint Capella. I don't think Clint Capella's done. Last year, he was a double-double with a block and a half per game, as in 1.5, as in that's a really good total in today's NBA. And I think it's pathetic that that's a really good total. That should be a crappy big man total. Let's go back to the 90s, right, Brew and Doc, when dudes were averaging 4 blocks per game. Why don't we do that anymore? Well, this and this and this, excuses. Capella's not done. He's not washed. He's not toast. He's still a very viable center, and he might get traded to a contender who really puts him up to bat in a prominent role. And even if he splits the game with Okongwu, he's still going to be at 10-10 with about a block and a half. Okay, he's still, even at 24 minutes per game, he's still going to be helpful for you. Walker Kessler's got to get traded up and out of Utah, and I circle him because if he gets to a spot that plays him 30 minutes a game and they're going for it, ooh la la, we could be talking about 12-12 with 3 blocks a game, okay? And if Utah played him, which they should, but they don't, he plays 22 minutes a game. It's a travesty of justice, okay? What if all of a sudden the light bulb goes on with Will Hardy? If only to drive up his value to then trade him. Like, you idiots, why are you diminishing the value of Walker Kessler? And then you come out and say, oh, we want 2 first-round picks for him. Well, then showcase him, okay? So that whole thing is maddening to me, but the upside, the big-time juicy upside for shot blocking is there. And then Naz Reid, for all the reasons that Doc said, we love Naz Reid, and Ivica Zubac. And Zubac may be the guy on this entire list that I'm the most high on because of a couple of things. He's available. He's consistent. He's more talented than you think. The Clippers are going to play 1 million games this year without Kawhi Leonard. They're already without Paul George. I think Zubac is going to be catching more lobs and doing more back to the basket work, and just getting more usage rate. I mean, we could be talking about a +2 or +3 points per game, right? Maybe to 15. Nothing crazy, okay? But there's upside. There's popability here with Ivica Zubac. Just got paid almost $20 million per year, okay? And so you say, Cam, it's not a contract year. But also, when you get paid, you get confidence. And when you get paid, you get the rock, okay? And so I think those things are going to really benefit Ivica Zubac. The Clippers are not tanking. Okay, we've talked about this. Their picks are already going out, so they're not tanking. They're going to be trying to win here. So Zubac, Naz Reid, Kessler, and Capella out of this last tier. And I do like them all. These are not like, oh, I'm stuck with these guys. I actually like these guys.
Yeah. I'll give my thoughts after I get you guys to give me some last thoughts on just the center position in your strategy as a whole. Doc, when you look at this list and how we've gone through it here, did you have any takeaways? Do you have any takeaways about how to approach big men in drafts?
If it's a 2-center league, I definitely want one early because you need to end up with 3 or 4 of them on your team. If it's a 1-center league, then I'm not that worried about it because this list at the end, the Rick just broke down beautifully. There's guys. We didn't even get into the, Andre added to the list at the end with Okongwu and Trace Jackson. I mean, you get Trace Jackson Davis with the last pick of your draft, maybe. There's nothing wrong with that. There's plenty of good centers out there, but if you're in a 2-center league, I think that's when you really need to hunker down and make sure you get at least 2 pretty good ones that you trust, before like round 10.
Rick, any final parting words?
Yeah, I just don't think it's hard to fill the center position anymore. Okay, Julius Randle might have the C. Zion's got the C. Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to have the PFC. Pascal Siakam's going to have the PFC. Domantas Sabonis in some leagues still has the PFC. It's just not that hard of a position to fill. I find that the power forward, okay, is the hardest position to fill. SF is not, okay? You got a lot of SGSF, a lot of wings. It's very plentiful at those positions. You've got some SFPFs, and to me, those are the really valuable guys. The Herb Joneses, the Paulo Bancheros, right? The guys that are hitting both of those forward spots. You can toggle. You can be creative with how you use them because they're hard to fill. PG, SG, and center are not hard to fill. SF is not really hard to fill either. The position that's hard to fill with massivity, okay, is the power forward position. And so what we've just done here, and this is what, like round 9 or 10, okay? Nurkic, Jonas, Pirtle, Zoo, Mark Williams, Nas, Kessler, Capella, Porzingis for half a year if that knocks your socks off. And then John Collins is going to, be shut down. And then Gafford and Lively, who I think are going to chop in and basically cannibalize each other here. I'm not into Gafford or Lively because of that. But these are a lot of dudes, okay? And so like go forwards, go guards, okay? And then mess around with some assistant point guards and like pluck a center or two throughout. But don't feel like you've got to be obsessed. Oh my gosh, I got to get a center. I got to get a center. No, dude. You could get Zubats in like round 10. Like Doc said, if Steve Kerr green lights Trace Jackson Davis for the starting center position in Golden State, his stats are going off. 15 and 10 with 2 blocks type of thing, okay? I love Trace Jackson Davis. And he's going to be decent playing half the game off the bench. 11 points, 7 boards, block and a half, like decent, okay? But if Kerr gets that itch to put him in the starting lineup, and in the last round, you have a starting center on your hands. So you don't have to be all freaky geeky with centers early in your draft. I would be freaky geeky with the forward spot, specifically power forward.
Freaky deaky geeky. I like Zubac. Williams is just a hell of a crapshoot. Who knows what's going on there? Like Nas Reed. Kessler, I think, actually, his stats weren't as bad last year as people thought. And for all the reasons that you guys both described, I like Kessler a lot. Capella, he's kind of in the middle for me. Not going with Porzingis. Gafford, I like Gafford. Lively, not as much. Collins has at least a little bit of an angle to get out of Utah, perhaps, and then maybe just put together a nice little sneaky season. But then a Kongwu, will it happen? Who knows? Who cares? Because, there's just, a lot of minutes for him there. And then Trace Jackson Davis, I do believe that he is going to be kind of the first at the trough, so to speak, in Golden State. And then, you got Zach Edey out there as well. Who knows? Zach Edey might just surprise everybody and be very good. You just never know. I can't really project that, but you never know. So there's a lot of big men out there. All of that advice, I agree with it in total. And it makes the chessboard here as we get into draft season so intriguing. So every draft's different, but one thing that I know I do is I use the draft tracker tool that you can get as a part of the NBA Fantasy Pass. It's got the B150 stats loaded in there, the B150 ranks loaded right in there, and it just makes it so easy. You're seeing like 5 moves ahead. It's not reliant on the internet, so you don't have to worry about that kind of going out during your draft. I used it last season, won a ton of high stakes leagues. It was great, and it's even better this season. So I can't get enough of that thing. Check that out with the Fantasy Pass at sportsethos.com. The Bruski 150's live. Doc's My Guys is live. Rick's Pop Players, I believe, is live. Don't quote me on that, but I believe, if not live right now, just in a few hours, it will be live. So the whole full boat is out there ready for you. You should be able to dominate your leagues. Get in there, check it out. Use promo code Draft Weekend, I believe, for 50% off your first month. And that will do it for us here today, folks. Thank you guys for all of your questions, messages, well wishes. We see and hear it all. It's awesome. We appreciate you guys. This has been Fantasy NBA Today, a Bet Online presentation presented to you by Sports Ethos, I believe. And that's going to do it. Ladies and gentlemen, until next time, be well.